Hi, I'm Brittany from Keto Hughes, and today I'm going to do some meal prepping. I have some new recipes to try out as well. I've already done my fridge and freezer inventory and created my meal plan for the week. We eat 2 meals a day, so I'm prepping for what I'm going to need over the next few days. This is our second meal prep video, so please let us know what you think in the comments below. In today's meal prep session, I'm going to make some homemade mayonnaise, some pumpkin pie fat bombs, zucchini fritters, coleslaw, baked chicken, and kielbasa. In case I forget to say it later, all the recipes used are in the description below. Let's get started. So one of the things that we really enjoy in our family is to have a pile of different types of fat bombs and treats in the freezer. And right now I am really low. And we made pumpkin spice muffins, which is a recipe on our channel and on our website recently. And I never want anything to go bad. So I found a recipe that I've never made before from Green and Keto called pumpkin spice fat bombs. So what I have here is 4 ounces of softened cream cheese, a stick of butter softened, a 1/4 cup of confectioner's swerve, a 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree, a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. And if you don't have pumpkin pie spice, the recipe lays out all of the ingredients that are actually inside of it. And then a 1/2 cup of halved pecans. And these go on top, so that'll be really fun. And so what we're going to do first is blend together the butter and the cream cheese. And hopefully they're softened enough. We're having a really unusually chilly morning in Florida, and so I don't know for sure if they're soft enough. If not, I may nuke it for like 15-20 seconds. So let me get a scooper. I'll be right back. All right, so we're going to add the cream cheese and the butter. Oh, that was easy. And we're going to start to blend and see how it does. I'm going to back these up just a little bit so that I don't make a mess. Yeah, that feels really, really hard still. So I'm actually going to stop and put it in the microwave for like 15 seconds. I'm not looking for soup, but I'm looking for it to be soft enough that I can blend it. Okay? All right, so I have softened that up for 15 seconds in the microwave, and I'm going to start blending it together. Well, that blended beautifully. If you look at it, it almost looks like frosting. So that's a great tip. 15 seconds in the microwave if it's not quite ready. So now we're going to add all the rest of the ingredients except for the pecans, and we're going to blend it again. So we've got our vanilla, our pumpkin pie spice, our confectioner's swerve, and our pumpkin. And I want every drop of that. Oh my goodness, does that smell good? It smells like pumpkin pie in here right now. All right, so I'm going to give it a mix, and hopefully it doesn't go flying everywhere. I'm going to scrape down the edges and give it one more blend through. So this looks wonderful, it smells wonderful, it's a really soft, nice consistency. So what you're going to need at this point is the size of mini muffins in a silicone mold. And I will show you, I have 2 different kinds that I'm about to show you. Let me just give these a little hit. Okay. The recipe said, oh wait, are you ready for me? The recipe says that it makes 12. So I have one that's just the circular mini muffins. I have one that is hearts, and I need to dry it off because apparently it's still wet. If you did not have these, you could use ice cube trays. You could use a mini muffin tin with liners inside of it. We're gonna put it in the freezer for a couple of hours before we redo it. And so you wanna make sure that you can get it back out. If you're not using a silicone mold, you really need liners. So I'm gonna try the hearts because I think it's really pretty. And I'm gonna try a cookie scoop. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm gonna use a traditional cookie scoop because it looks like there's enough batter for that. And if I get more than 12, that would be awesome too. These have 1 net carb each. And so if I can get more than 12, it'll be even less than that. So here we go. Oh, that's gonna be way too big. Having the realization that I'm gonna use a smaller scoop. So I'm gonna give these a shake and level them out. So I was able to do 22, so that's awesome. But also what that means is you could do a regular cupcake size to get the 12 if you wanted to make just 12. I love the idea of having 2 for a serving. So I'm now going to take the pecan halves and place 1 on each one, and then I'll put it in the freezer. These are so lovely. So pumpkin is one of my mom's absolute favorite flavors. So I made them in the heart because Valentine's Day is coming up and she's going to absolutely love these. And I know you will as well. I also toasted these very lightly in a dry frying pan before we began. It just deepens the flavor a little bit on them. You certainly don't have to do that. These are so pretty. I'm running out of whole ones. All right, I think that's great. So I'm gonna put these in the freezer for 2 to 3 hours till they're really good and hardened, and then I will take them out and show you how to store them. So one of the things that we're gonna make today as part of our meal prep is homemade mayonnaise. And if you watched the very first meal prep that we did, I talked about it. And the reason that I love this, first of all, it's easy and it's delicious. But secondly, it uses oils that are easier on the body. So I am using extra light olive oil. So it doesn't have the flavor of olive oil, but you still have an oil in your mayonnaise. You could also use avocado oil. And you definitely need an immersion blender. I've tried it in the food processor, I've tried it other ways, and the immersion blender works great. So I have overnight taken 2 eggs out, and the reason I have 2 is because while the recipe only calls for 1 egg, every now and then you get a batch that's too thin, and by adding 1 more egg if you need it at room temperature, it will fix that. So what I have in front of me is 1 1/4 cup of light olive oil, 2 room temperature eggs, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, 1/2 teaspoon of mustard powder, and 1/2 of a lemon juiced. And we're gonna add 1 egg. Oh, I forgot to mention, a wide mouth mason jar is great because the immersion blender fits down in it really, really easily. So I'm gonna add 1 egg, my spices, if they want to come out, and a quarter cup of this. So just a bit of it to get it started. And I'm going to make some noise. So what I'm looking for before I do anything further is some emulsification, and it happens really quickly. Like you can see that it's happening here. And once that does, if you're coordinated enough, you can slowly pour this while you're immersioning. That's difficult for me, so I'm just going to add it a small amount at a time. So I don't know if you heard the difference in the sound that it makes when it's finished as well, but that definitely looks like mayonnaise. So the last thing that we do is add our lemon juice and blend it through just one more time. And then also I'm going to taste it to be sure that it's the way that I like it. So I'm going to give it a little taste and see what we think. Now this is a really, really basic recipe if you're just looking to make regular mayonnaise, but you could add garlic to it. You could add lime juice. You could add cilantro. You could add hot sauce. There's all kinds of things that you could do depending on what your flavors are that you like. All right, I give up on that. Got a little messy. Oh, that is so delicious. Yum. So I'm going to put a lid on it, which I forgot to get out, so you're going to have to hold one more moment. But this will last in the refrigerator for 1 to 2 weeks. You want to use fresh eggs. I used Costco organic eggs. Check your expiration date on your eggs before you start. It should last 1 week past the expiration date on the egg, but really 1 to 2 weeks. And in our family, this will go in that amount of time. So I just keep it where I would normally keep mayonnaise in my fridge. And I don't know if you can get a close-up in there, but it is just like regular mayonnaise, except it tastes better. So I'm going to put a lid on this and pop it in the fridge. So one of the very first keto recipes that we tried as a family when we were first starting out a bunch of months ago was zucchini fritters. This particular recipe is from Wholesome Yum. I'll link it in the description below. And it calls for 8 medium zucchini. I have 7 here, and a couple of them are a little bit bigger than medium, so I think it'll be fine. If you had the bigger zucchini, you could just use 4. And what I'm going to do is grate it and add a teaspoon of sea salt, which I forgot to put out, so it's over here. And what that's going to do, we're going to leave it for like 10 or 15 minutes in the salt so that the liquid can start to come out, and then we're going to squeeze it in a tea towel, and you will not believe how much liquid comes out of these. But it makes a fritter that will hold together better if you get that moisture out of there. So I'm going to start to grate, and I like to do it in a bowl because then you don't have to transfer what you grated. But I'm using the bigger side of a grater, a box grater. If you had a food processor, you could do it that way. But it goes really fast. And I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. I'll add the salt at the end when they're all in here. You want to be very careful of your fingers. So I'm going to leave just that little bit because I don't want to cut my hand open. Okay, so this is what all of my zucchini shredded looks like. I'm going to take this teaspoon of sea salt and mix it in really, really good. And then I'm going to pour all of this into this strainer. And the reason that I'm putting it in the strainer is that way the liquid as it leaches out can just drip down into the sink. It will be less to squeeze out later. So I'm going to sprinkle this on top and then, whoop, got a little crazy with it. And mix it through. And that is cold on my hand. Woo! All right. So now I'm going to pour it into the strainer. Turn it around this way. Get all that good stuff out there. All right. So we're going to let this sit for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we will come back and strain it out and move forward with the fritters. We'll see you in a minute. Alrighty, so we have allowed the zucchini and the salt to marinate together and all that good stuff for about 10-15 minutes. So I'm going to shake this a little bit. My sink has some green zucchini juice in it. I'm going to dump it on a tea towel. If you didn't have this exact kind, you could use a hand towel kind of a thing, but you want, the thinner that it is, the easier it will be for you to squeeze. Well, that came out really easy. And it looks like a lot now, but man, when I squeeze, it's not gonna look like very many at all. So I forgot to tell you guys when we started why I'm doing fritters. These are awesome as a side dish or as the main course. And I discovered last week that they reheat in the air fryer super easy. So you can get a batch of these set up, put them in the fridge, bring them out, and pop them in the air fryer when you're ready to eat them. Because we like our hot food hot around here. So I'm gonna squeeze. And look it. My goodness. Wow, it's still really cold too. And you just keep squeezing till your hands give out. You want as much of the juice out of there as humanly possible. I'm just gonna keep squeezing. Who knew zucchini had that much liquid in them? Holy goodness. But the better job that you do of squeezing it out now, even if it's hard on your hands, the better that your fritters will stay together and the more delicious that they'll be. So now I'm gonna empty it into a bowl. And you want like a medium-sized bowl. So this is how it has smushed down, and it's a lot less volume than when we started. So I think that's amazing. So I'm just gonna rinse my hands because I have green all over me. All right. So to this, we're gonna add 1 cup of grated parm. If I can get them to come out. 2 eggs. 4 cloves of garlic. If you like more or less garlic than that, then go for it. But it gives this great flavor. And this is 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. I also added a little tiny bit of garlic powder and onion powder just for some more flavor, but it's blended in there, you can't really see it. And that's the really cool thing about recipes is you can adjust them. So if there's a flavor that you really like, you could add steak seasoning in here. You could add basil, which basil's in the Italian seasoning, but I'm giving it a stir. So that looks really good. It's all nice and combined. It's got a really nice dry texture to it, but I think it will still hold together just fine. I am going to get a pan out, get a little bit of oil in it, and start to pan fry these. So I will meet you back at the stove. Okay, so I have a small layer of avocado oil on medium-high heat in the pan. If you did not want to pan fry these, if you have one of the mini waffle makers, I have made them in that as well. So it uses a little bit less oil, but since I'm making such a large quantity of them, I'm gonna go ahead and do it in the pan. And I'm gonna use a cookie scoop. Oh, the oil might not be hot enough yet. That did not do what it was supposed to.
Oops.
So let's give that a second before we put more in there. I'm just giving it a tiny little bit of a smush so that they cook through all the way. Okay, so this is the first batch of 3 coming off the fryer. The pan was still getting hot enough, the oil was still getting hot enough, and they didn't really hold their shape well. So for the next ones that I put down into the pan, I'm gonna smush them and shape them more with my hands. And now the oil is the right temperature. The recipe calls for like 2 minutes on each side. These took more like 3 or 4 minutes, but the oil's really hot and it's the right temperature now. So we're gonna see how we do. So I'm still gonna take the scoop, but instead of putting it directly into the pan, I'm gonna shape it up tighter. And then I'm gonna really carefully facing away from me, set it in. You don't want hot oil coming up and hitting you, so always put it in a hot pan away from you. And I think because I'm smushing them, I'm going to be able to get 4 in a pan at a time now instead of just 3. I set the microwave timer for 2 minutes. We'll see how these look at the 2-minute mark, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to be perfect at that point. So the microwave timer went off. It's been 2 minutes now, so I'm going to very carefully flip these. Oh, they look perfect. I highly recommend the 2 spatula technique. Oh, yum! So I'm going to set it again. I'll see you in 2 minutes. So it is time to take these out. And it kind of reminds me the first batch of when, you know, if your pancake pan isn't all the way, your griddle isn't all the way at the right temperature, that the first pancake doesn't always come out. That's kind of how I feel about that first couple that I did. Oh, those look so good. And I am putting them on paper towels because you definitely want to drain off the oil before you store them. So I'm going to continue to make up the rest of the dough until they're all dough. It's not really dough, but you know what I mean, until they're all cooked up. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so next we're going to make a ketofied version of coleslaw, and you can buy prepackaged. So this package of coleslaw came from Aldi. This one came from Trader Joe's. So if you don't want to cut cabbage and carrots and all that good stuff, you can totally use a prepackaged mix, and that's what I'm going to do here. The recipe that I'm using for this is loosely, it's inspired by a recipe from Wholesome Yum, and I'll post that in the description below. I've made a few changes to it based on what I know that our family likes. I'm also, when I'm done mixing this up, going to talk to you about a dairy-free option if you wanted to make a dairy-free dressing for your salad. All right, so what we have is a 1/2 cup of mayo, and I've actually gone in and pulled from the mayo that we made earlier today. And so I'm going to put the dressing into this small bowl and mix it up before I combine it all. I have 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Smells like Easter eggs in here. This is Dijon mustard, celery seed, salt and pepper to taste. And 1 tablespoon of confectioner's erythritol, or sweetener of your choice. You could use stevia in this as well if you're a stevia fan. And I'm going to stir it up. All right, so that came together really nicely. I'm going to give it a little taste to be sure that it's what I'm looking for. Ooh, that's delightful. It's this combination of tart from the apple cider vinegar. If you like things really sweet, you might want to add another little bit of swerve. This is just the right sweetness for us. So I'm going to put it into the big bowl and toss like crazy. Coleslaw is one of those things that tastes better after it's had some time to sit completely made up. So you could certainly do this at the last minute, but if you have time to make it ahead like I am and give it a day or two, it just really marries the flavors and it's just delicious. So I like to take 2 big spoons when I'm doing the mixing. And we're just going to toss and toss and toss and toss some more. I don't like when those packages have those great big pieces, so if you see a big piece, either cut it up or pull it out. So this is what it looks like, all tossed up together. I'm going to put a lid on it and pop it in the fridge. This could easily last for a week. If it lasts that long in your family. It definitely won't last that long on ours. But if you are doing lunches that you're taking throughout the week, this would be a great addition to whatever protein you put in your lunch, as well as the zucchini fritters. And this will taste even better in, you know, a half a day or a day. So I love that about coleslaw. Now, I promised you a dairy-free version. So you could take olive oil and lemon juice, salt and pepper, and then your flavor of choice. So one of the things that I love to do when I'm doing a dairy-free version is to take a small amount of a fresh jalapeno pepper, take the seeds out, but dice it up really small and add that in. It's just absolutely delicious. And that's another one that needs to sit. So I'm thinking about in one of our next food prep videos to do the entire video dairy-free, in which case I'll make the full recipe so you'll get to see everything that goes in it. So all right, I'm going to pop this in the fridge. Okay, so now that we have some side dishes done for the week, I want to bake up some protein. So I am going to spatchcock, I think I'm saying that right, but where you cut the back and open it out, this chicken. And I'm going to use kitchen scissors to do that. Apparently you gotta hold on because it moves. It takes a little bit of strength, so, oh my goodness. It's Murphy's Law because I'm on camera that it doesn't want to cut. There we go. You want to stay to the left or the right of the spine. It will cut much, much easier. Okay, so I'm gonna get my pan and I'll come right back. So a baked chicken is a phenomenal way to have lots of different kinds of protein throughout the week. If you don't want to buy your own chicken and cut it up and bake it, you could certainly get a rotisserie chicken from the store. We'll eat it one night as baked chicken. Sometimes I make chicken salad out of it or stir fry out of it. There's just so many things that you can do, and you get some skin, which is just fantastic. So I put in here some salt and pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, steak seasoning, and Italian seasoning. I know that's a lot of things. You could just salt and pepper it and cook it, but I like a little bit more. And I'm gonna rub it down a little bit just to kind of really make sure that it's stuck in all the places that you want it to stick. I have a preheated oven at 400. I'm going to put it in for 15 minutes at that temperature, and then I'm going to drop it down to 375 to cook the rest of the way. It'll probably take about an hour and 15, hour and a half. It might take a little bit longer than that, but I don't think so. This one's just under 5 pounds, and when you cut it open that way, it takes less time to cook. So I'm going to get all cleaned up. I'm going to throw it in the oven, and then I'll meet you back. So one of the things that we bought this time when we went to Costco was the great big package of kielbasa. And we love kielbasa. We eat this with roasted vegetables on a sheet pan at least once a week. So when it comes, I like to process it out and divide it so that I don't forget about it. If you don't shop at Costco or you can't get to a Costco and you have a Publix near you, I got these buy one, get one free. And so it's the same brand. It's just this one's Polish and this one's beef. They have beef as well. So this is another way to get it. When I buy it this way, I know that this is a serving. When I buy it this way, I have to pay more attention to the weight. This is 3 pounds. So anyway, I'm gonna chop these up in rounds, but I'm gonna leave a few of them whole so that if we want to put them on a grill or that kind of a thing, I have it that way to do as well. For the ones that I know that I'm going to use in the next week or so, I'm going to put in here, and then some of them I'm going to portion and actually put in the freezer. Even frozen, I can throw them on top once they're in the circles of roasted vegetables, and they cook up just fine. So this just makes life so much easier for me, and these are delicious. Okay, you want a close-up? Here, I'll give you a close-up. I like to take the little ends off because of this, I don't know, the casing. When these are cooked properly, the casing's just fine. If you don't get them cooked properly, you can definitely tell the casing. So I just cut them in rounds. If you like a different shape or if you like them more diagonal, go for it. But the reason that I like them in rounds is I like as much kielbasa with my bites of vegetables as humanly possible. So by making them in the rounds, I get more per serving per se. That's the way my brain works anyway. And these are absolutely delicious. So I have my bowl prepared of the kielbasa that I'm going to use in the next week. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and cut the rest of these up and get them ready in the freezer bags, and then we'll come back. So that wraps up our meal prep for today. I am so excited to eat this yummy food. Here's the mayonnaise, the pumpkin pie fat bombs, the zucchini fritters, the coleslaw, the kielbasa. The chicken's still cooking in the oven. Thank you so much for watching. Tell us what you'd like to see us do in our next meal prep. Thank you so much for watching. Please tell us what you'd like to see us do in our next meal prep in the comments. Thank you and see you next time. Bye.